Oh man, did you guys see we made the mothership last week?
We
I guess
did,
this week?
Yeah, that was
or
pretty slick
yeah, was that
for the
the one
Magnor
that?
Stack episode.
Yeah.
I feel like there was something off about it though.
There were a couple things off about it. One, it was the mana poll, POLL.
Yeah.
So I poked Blake on Twitter and he said he'd fix it. And then someone pointed out that it went to the hosting page, like the root of the hosting site, not even like that episode in particular. And I was like, so I poked him again and was like, hey, buddy. Is there any way I could get you to use this link? And he's like, sure.
I think you need to retrain the trained orangutans you have running the website.
I don't know if it was an automated thing or if someone just has like an RSS feed and they just randomly pick crap from it. I don't know, but I thought it was pretty cool that the Magnor Stack episode of all episodes made it onto the mothership for the first time in a while.
That is cool. I was glad that that episode of all things
Yes.
was what they decided to pick.
Yeah.
Because that's something that's really indicative of what we feel the show is about.
Yeah. Just good old magic related nonsense. Also, apologies if the microphone is picking up any of the nonsense that's going on upstairs. I don't know what is going on up there today, especially, but like after dinner, I dozed off on the couch and I was woken up by several loud kerblams in a row, followed by two of them, and I'm not sure which two, that's the messed up part, screaming at each other. And I was like, okay. That's cool, I guess.
Cool is one word for it.
Yeah. And now there's just been, like, there were several more loud kerblams and, like, it sounded like they were moving furniture in the kitchen for, like, 20 minutes earlier. And then it sounded like there were three of them running up and down the hall for several minutes. And then now there's just occasional blam. Boom. Ka-thunk, 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 blam. And it's like way more than usual. And it's actually tripping me out.
Maybe there was some kind of big mess and they had to move a bunch of furniture out of the way and then back.
I don't think they have that much furniture in the kitchen.
Okay. Well, maybe it had to get moved there from somewhere else in the apartment.
Oh, that could be.
Maybe they're dropping all of the pots and pans.
Maybe they have bowling balls. I don't know. Chewie's neighbors have been replaced by a herd of elephants. Let's see if he notices.
See if he notices.
Nope.
Apparently, not so much.
Anyway, let's do the show. Everybody good?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Ow, jam! Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mana Pool. This is episode 565. Hell yeah, palindromic episode. Yes. We don't get to do those nearly often enough.
Yeah, no, we don't.
I mean, it's every 10 episodes, but still.
Oh. Yeah, you're right. Never mind.
I was thinking about every 101.
I'm glad you guys are up on your palindromes.
That's a subclass, right? If you go into Holy Night.
I think so. Like first you're a prospect pally, and then you're a palindrome. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm Chewy, the lead dork. With me, as always, are these other dorks.
Hey,
Hi,
I'm
dorks.
a dork. I'm Brian. I'm the lead tangent master guy rambling all the way from here to there. And I'm here to talk. Yeah. That's me.
I'm Mike. I'm the rules guy and game lore guy. Not game lore as in story necessarily, but more like the game of Magic in real world Earth.
Fascinating.
Earth Prime.
And I'm Dirk, the self-proclaimed greenest man alive and moral compass of the group, who tries to morally point out when people shouldn't be meanie heads and just play the game
Yeah.
and not be meanie heads.
Yeah.
Should have told that to Brian before he played that spell that ruined combat.
That was awesome.
Dirk was leaving. He didn't care.
Yeah, Dirk was gone.
If you gain some objective distance from it, you will be giving it a slow clap.
I do appreciate the comedy of it now. I do. I will admit that.
So anyway, this is the Mana Pool where we talk about magic and all of its fun and silly things.
Yes.
Because magic is many things to many people, and to us, it's a giant, fascinating ball of fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a really good way of putting it.
Yeah, it's why we don't talk about, like, playing games all that often, because honestly, we don't play Magic all that often, but we still love it, and there's so much more to Magic than just sitting down and playing the physical card game. Thank goodness, or else we wouldn't have a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think there's anything else that all four of us are actually into at all.
Table tennis?
Nope.
No.
See, that's something we all have in common. None
Hey!
of us are interested in table tennis.
We could do the not table tennis podcast. All right. Once we get done with the Mana Pool, we'll start that one up.
Yeah. If we want to slack off on any given week, we can just post an old Mana Pool episode and pretend it's the...
Hey, because it's not table tennis. Oh my god.
We better make sure. We'll check with Magnor later just to make sure we didn't talk about table tennis in any of the old ones.
Right?
He would know.
Because wouldn't that be embarrassing? You picked the one episode.
That would be the worst. It would probably be my fault, too. Anyway, so, this week, we're going to, do one of our, I can't remember the word I was about to use.
Features?
Yeah, there we go. We'll call it that. One of our features that we come back to occasionally called There's No Plane Like Home, where we look at one of the many planes of magic, not like aeroplanes, but like planes of existence, and try to figure out if it would be nice to live there or not. In the past,
9
we've
times
covered...
out of 10, the answer's no.
This is accurate.
Except we haven't had 10 planes to be on, so...
This is also accurate. We've covered, let's see, we did Theros and Amonkhet and all the different flavors of Mirrodin. And I think we did Ravnica
And
Innistrad.
I think that's everything so far.
I think that's everything. So
I do believe that's everything.
So this week, we've decided we're going to talk about the other artifact-themed place that isn't Mirrodin. Not Argentum, not New Phyrexia, because that's all the same location.
Mm-hmm.
Just under new managements each time. We're going to talk about Kaladesh.
Yeah. I think we talked briefly about old Phyrexia, but just briefly. It doesn't exist anymore, so, whatever.
Well, we definitely don't want to live there now. If it
You
doesn't
didn't want to
exist
live there
anymore.
before. Phyrexia is just... When you hear the name Phyrexia, you're just like, I think I'm good.
The planet of multiple needs for tetanus shots.
Yes.
Among other things, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What are
I think
random
they'll
things?
treat your tetanus yes, but not in the way you want.
It's a robot or something assimilates you like a Borg.
I think the way they treat tetanus is to just make you all tetanus. So, so then you don't
Man, I
mind so
hate
much.
table tetanus. So,
Instead of a person afflicted with tetanus, you're a tetanus afflicted with some person. And that's mild. It'll be fine. Anyway, Kaladesh, which has nothing at all to do with Phyrexian anyway. Not new nor old. So Kaladesh is where the set, well, Kaladesh took place. Also, Aether Revolt. And also before that, it was first introduced in, oh crap, that core set. Was it Origins?
Yes, Magic Origins.
Yeah,
It was where we caught the first glimpse of Kaladesh.
Yeah, all we knew about it was the home of Chandra, and we were like, yay!
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let's get into it. What's up with Kaladesh?
Okay, so first things first. Part of the real world inspiration for Kaladesh's setting is South Asia. The Indian subcontinent. So you get a lot of the influences there in the art direction for like the people and the clothing and the colors and the names of people and places and all kinds of stuff like that.
mm-hmm.
That's the real world inspiration for it.
It has a really distinct. I'm glad you used the word color, because not in a like magic sense of like blue, red, but very much in a. I think Kaladesh is one of those planes that if you were to be shown art from there and 3 or 4 other places, you even some similar planes, you'd probably be able to point at it and say that's Kaladesh.
Oh yeah,
It
easy.
has a very distinctive style. So, and I think you're right. I think it seems like it is inspired by South Asian culture, art, and yeah.
Yeah. It's also very steampunky.
Extreme.
Yes.
It's like a very stable version of what the Izzet would like to do. Like if the Izzet were put in charge of the plane, but they weren't insane. Like, I'm the whole Inventors Fair, which is not something. It's difficult sometimes to think about some of these planes because we associate some of the periodic events that happen there with the entire plane. And as far as we know, or as certainly my understanding is, the Inventors Fair is not something that's going 24/7. So we see it at a point in time where that's the big thing. But nevertheless, it does seem like invention, creativity, industry are central tenets to this society.
Mm-hmm.
But so you think about something where the Inventors Fair is a central tenet, is this huge deal, and it gives you that mindset into the culture. This is their main event. On another plane, the main event would be a gladiatorial match, or a race, or a hunt. And here it's bring your wacky, crazy adventures. So it really, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, the Izzet would like this place. It could use a little more, like crazy inventiveness for their style. There's not nearly enough stuff blowing up. It feels like it's a little more controlled. And I think that's due in part to the government. And I know that the government has been shaken up in the wake of the events of Kaladesh block. But the what's the government's name? I had closed that page for a second.
The consulate.
The consulate. Who are the consulate?
Also, before we start on that,
yes,
thank you very much to Saskia for the follow. Welcome to the pool. Okay, you may continue now.
Consulate. Who day?
It's a group of government organizations that are headed by consuls who oversee each division that that help regulate and govern and administer different parts of public life. There's ether distribution. We'll get to the ether in a minute. There's it's like organizations for industries. I think I couldn't tell whether there was also some kind of organizations for, I guess, the equivalent of unions. That was hard to tell. But yeah, basically all the trappings that you need to make a modern-ish society work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the sources of why that it's more stable is because you do have some of this oversight.
Yeah.
Um,
In the chat here, Jay Spencer characterized it as, is it combined with Azorius' self-restraint?
And you literally took the words out of my mouth, which is impressive because usually I speak quickly enough that I'm doing that to everyone else. So bravo to Mike. I like it. Exactly.
And Stark also points out in the chat that the is it aren't distinctly about I have to make things explode, but they push things to the limit against better judgment, and that leads to explosions.
Yes, and I should clarify because like
They are still all crazy though.
Their point is not blow it up. Their point, but as Stark said, their point is
to push it,
tinkering this and tinkering and tinkering, and what if it did this and this and this, and then that. Usually, I would say sometimes, but let's face it, usually leads to something spectacular, and oftentimes in a conflagration. So, yeah, and J.C. Spencer, and not to keep letting the chat do the talking for us, but yeah. So I was using that to compare and contrast because we don't see that same sort of attitude here. I am sure that there's the rogue scientist somewhere who's like, "Mwahaha," and but it seems like that sort of thing is tapped down quite a bit by the mentality of the plane. Maybe that's just not something to be prized as much, as well as the government infrastructure.
Yeah, because if you cause too much problems, you're probably going to get your supply, your materials, and ether cut off.
Yeah,
and then you can't do anything.
Right. So what is ether? Or aether, or
either however you want to say it, is the magical force that infuses everything in the magic multiverse, and the blind eternities are just swarming with it. That's where most of the aether is. Kaladesh happens to be a place where the barriers between the plane and outside the plane and the blind eternities are just a lot more thin and permeable. So there's a lot of ether that leaks into the plane in a visible form rather than just hiding in ley lines, or just kind of running just slightly underneath everything, however you want to think about that, in the background. Like you can see it flowing through the sky. You can find big veins of it underground, and you can see it because it actually shapes the landscape. It shapes the weather. It shapes the way plants grow. It shapes the way rivers run. And it's easy. You just go up and get it. And that's the biggest reason why Kaladesh has been able to become technomechanical. It's kind of like if you've seen Black Panther, it's kind of like how the Wakandans have the vibranium that gave them all this wonderful capability for technology and advancement.
Right.
Kaladesh has this easy access to raw magical power that they can do. It's just limited only by their imagination what they can do with it.
Yeah,
cool.
Anytime you've got a society that has freely available, virtually unlimited resources, you get civilization. That's just what happens.
Yeah.
Like, there are countless real-world examples of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia.
Yep.
Things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's, magical blue whatever juice.
All right.
Makes
And
sense.
Kaladesh seems to be a very prosperous society. I'm sure there might be something hiding in the back of a card art or anything. But I don't remember, at least on anything that was featured prominently, if there really being much of an underclass in society in Kaladesh. It seems like everyone gets by, at least decently.
Yes.
What about the
What?
gremlins?
Gremlins.
Oh,
Well, they're
well,
not.
gremlins are just animals.
They're not. I mean, are they sentient?
As much as an animal can be.
Yeah, it's an animal. They're not. They're sentient. They're not necessarily intelligent. They're more creatures of instinct, and they are drawn toward aether, which
Nom, nom,
puts
nom,
them
nom,
at odds with the way that their society works.
nom.
I love how during the events of the block, when there was a sort of rebellion going on, there was literally a bomb of goblins that was unleashed at one part of the consulate to like take down their aether supplies, because it's draining away not only creating a nuisance, but it's actually draining away their energy supply. I wonder what would happen between a gremlin and an aetherborn. Ugh. I don't know that we have any documented uh, like information of that happening.
The Otherborn are smart enough that I think they know how to stay away from and fight off gremlins.
I would hope so, but say you're an aetherborn, you're traveling down a dark alley and you hear some footsteps, you turn around, all of a sudden there's gremlins everywhere. I agree with you. I think for the most part the aetherborn are very, very intelligent. Kind of putting them at the other end of the spectrum, shall we say, from gremlins. Gremlins, not to be confused with goblins.
Yeah,
Right?
that's another
Can't do
neat
that.
feature of Kaladesh, the Aetherborn. They don't really show up on any other plane that we've seen. As the Kaladeshi started really tapping into the ether and getting used to working with it, they'd build these big refineries, and every once in a while, like a person would pop out of the refined aether. It's like a person made completely of magical energy, and they live kind of short lives, but that means they just try to make the most of them.
Yeah, they party pretty hard.
Oh yeah, and everyone loves an Aetherborn party.
Yes.
I hear there ain't no party like an Aetherborn party, because an Aetherborn party actually does stop relatively quickly. Never mind.
But when it finally does stop, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. The Aetherborn are really, I think Magic does a pretty good job of subverting some of your expectations when it comes to jumping ahead a week or two. But fantasy tropes and creatures, like I love how on purpose in the very first set, limited alpha, whatever you want to call it, Llanowar elf does not look like anything. The art for it does not look like anything out of Tolkien or Santa Claus. Which, side note, I've always thought it confusing that elves are either Santa's dwarven-looking helpers or really tall and lithe, and the exact opposite physical image. But whatever.
Santa has gnomes, really.
Yeah, but calling them Santa's gnomes. Anyway, so the image of Llanowar elf, especially in the original art, is not what you might expect from either of those sources. That being said, I think over the years people have grown to see, all right, this fits into this mold, this fits into this mold, and while there are occasionally new races that you're like, oh, I haven't seen that before. I'm thinking specifically of like the Vidalcan when we went to Mirrodin the first time. It was really cool and neat. Again, for the most part, it kind of fits into some of these tropes. The Aetherborn, to me, were extremely fascinating because I felt like they're really, it's something that I had never really thought of before. It's not, oh, it's a goblin, but it's on this plane, so it does blah. It's not X Beast, because Beast covers a lot of ground. they're really interesting from a society standpoint. The issues that they deal with are completely different than most races. The fact that they are innately and they are born with a finite amount of life. In theory, yes, every living creature has a finite amount of life, but theirs
Yes.
is acutely so.
Yeah, and
Um,
they're aware of it. They
they're
know how
aware.
many days and hours they have left.
Yes, and
Oh,
that,
really?
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and that to
Huh.
them, it like heightens this sense of well, I'm going to make the most of the time I've got left because I know exactly how much time that is. I think
Yeah,
it says
that's why they're able to have those final. I can't remember what they call them. Those last blowout parties because they know, okay, this is going to be the day. Let's have a party.
this is my send off day.
Hmm.
So they are genderless, so they don't have any concern. They don't obviously they don't reproduce through any sort of biological means, but they also avoid societal stereotypes and gender expectations
Hmm.
because they are neither. It's not even whether or not they have a choice or anything like that. They are literally no gender,
Yeah,
and
it matters zero to them.
it's really interesting to read some of the story articles from Kaladesh because some of the characters, especially some of the prominent ones, I think Yeheni is one that's featured.
Hmm.
The way that Yeheni speaks uses the word. I want to say the word she, and that's not appropriate. The way that they speak, to me, almost sounded like it had certain feminine qualities to it. But I think that was me playing into some of my expectations. Uh, they use the word darling a lot, to refer to people that they cared about. But it wasn't with the, 1950s damsel, oh, darling. So just really kind of fascinating. And every now and then,
Hmm.
you do get an Aetherborn that has the ability to extend its life.
Yes, some either born. Not all of them develop this ability, and some of the ones that have it choose not to use it. But some have an ability to steal power from other beings. They are vampires, and
Yeah,
they're able to extend their life by doing that.
yeah.
Huh. I think I forgot about
But
that part.
but it's not something that any Aetherborn can do. I think Yeheni in the story discovers that they have this ability basically at the end of their life. They're pretty much ready to go, but with the events happening around them, they feel like they want to continue living. They want to feel like they're contributing something, and in a moment of desperation, they find that they have that ability, and they decide that they're going to stick around for a while using this ability to aid the Nalaars and their cause. And then it's been a while since I've read the story, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think after the conflict, they decide, all right, I'm good, I'm done, and they let their time just wear out. So, um, yeah. I also think they're a very interesting. They are all in black, right? I feel like they are.
Yeah, I
Maybe
think there's a black blue one
there might be a black
somewhere,
blue one,
but
but
they're black.
Yeah,
and
they're a black aligned creature type.
and that's again, it's fascinating to me because the stereotype is, oh, black, evil, selfish. They are selfish in a certain way, in that they are all about, I have this much time, I'm going to make the most of it. Because if you knew, Chewie, if somebody came to you, death knocked on your door and said, Chewie, you have exactly 50 more years, 26 days, it doesn't matter that that's a long time. You would be like, you would understand, I don't get any more time than that. And then take that, and obviously for the, I think the oldest Aetherborn are like 10 years old, so we're not talking about a long time. You would focus on things that matter to you. You're not going to do stuff that doesn't matter to you. And I think that's a really interesting way of being black without being evil, because obviously some of them are a bit more
Being black, the
selfish.
magic color.
Yes, the magic color. The Met. Yes. Wow, I'm gonna run for election in like 5 years, and somebody's gonna find that snip and be like, Brian Baker, he thinks that da da da. So, note to self: don't run for anything ever. But for black aligned creatures, there's the stereotype: oh, they're evil, they're selfish, and there are evil. There are more selfish Aetherborn. I think isn't there a crime lord?
Gonti.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the name starts with a G. What's his name?
Gonti,
Dang
I
it.
just said it.
Gonti.
Well, I didn't hear you.
Not
so
to be
yeah.
confused with Gandhi. This is Gonti. But again, for the most part, they can still be selfless, like Yeheni, giving a lot of interest to the resistance efforts, acting selflessly, but at the same time, still interested in getting the most out of their time. And I personally think that's kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's the Aetherborn. I don't know that
We spent
one of the
extra time
things-
on them because they're unique to Kaladesh.
And I realize we spread out a little bit because we're talking about some of the more unique creatures, but as Chewie said, they are unique to this plane. We were talking a minute ago about the consortium, the consulate.
consulate.
I'm sorry, the consulate. Thank you.
The consortium is Tezzeret's thing?
That's something else entirely.
That's something. Yeah, that's yeah. But
Is that what that was?
Yes.
It was Tezzeret, and then Jace took it over. Tezzeret took it over from Nicol Bolas. My point is that with the consulate and a lot of these other governments that we see throughout the multiverse, we tend to see the central figure. We know or have an idea of all of the leaders of the Ravnican guilds. We know when we're in conspiracy, either who the king is or the people competing for that. There's usually a central figure. I don't know with the consulate that we have an understanding of who the central figure or even figures are. We have been exposed to individual members of them, like Beryl, do a barrel roll, the chief of compliance, but we can't point to Kaladesh and say, oh, this is the President Maximus or whatever the title is, or this even the Senate or however they handle it, right?
Yeah, no, we see people like you said, like Beryl and Kemba and Dovin Bond and a couple others, but I don't think there's any like prime minister or president or anything.
Right.
Let's see. There are 11 consuls in total. Together, they are also referred to as the Enlightened Keepers.
Yeah.
Among them, Kumbal, the consul of allocation, who was replaced by Pia Nalaar. Padim, consul of innovation, held her position following the revolt. The consul of law enforcement, the consul of ports and commerce, the consul of regulation and enforcement, the consul of taxation and treasury. Consuls held their positions for life. Their admission, in the case of a vacancy, was the matter of nomination by the citizenry of Girapur, after which the candidate had to present their abilities in a public interview where their questions are answered by the consuls as well as the citizens. Their qualities are questioned, by the consuls as well as the citizens.
So it's a combination of nomination as well as public election, so to speak, a delegation.
Sorta, yeah.
Yeah. Fascinating.
And apparently we only knew 2 of them by name, according to the Gamepedia page here.
Right. And, Pia Nalaar, wasn't in this position before. So, yeah. It's an interesting one. So my point here is that you obviously have a very layered system. And this is not like, oh, God, King, Nicol Bolas running the whole plane. This is real. It sounds like they're really involved with their citizenry.
Mm-hmm.
And the average citizen actually has something of a vote. Yes, go ahead.
There's also the, as far as the different branches of it, there's the superintendency, where Dovin Bond was the head inspector and Tezzeret was the head judge.
Yeah.
The Honorable, which is the police force, where Ranaj... Who is Ranaj? Was this on a card?
sounds familiar, like a name from a story. That's not a card, though.
Okay. Whoop. Ranaj and Captain Barrel, Chief of Compliance, that Brian mentioned before. The House of Knowledge is the think tank of the consulate. That's where the best scientists and artificers of the city are constantly working to expand the technological level of the consulate. The Fleet protects the miners and ether harvesters from the local fauna that also feeds on the ether. And the
Gremlins.
edificers, or edificiaires. There's an extra letter in there.
Edificier.
Is it like Solumbus? Or I'm sorry, Sulumne? Wait, who's the wine guy?
What?
Some, I don't know how to say it.
See?
Sommelier?
You could sommelier. You could have said it until I said it wrong, and then you were like, "What? Why does it have the word bus?" Anyway, keep going.
Anyway, and then the edificers are tasked with constructing the buildings of Garipur and repairing them in case of damage. SRAM is the senior edificer, so we know him.
Yeah.
Because of his expertise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a functioning government, like here, with different branches and like a group of people in charge, and then a bunch of other people that do other things. That's really like in depth to be a Magic set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope that we'll be going back at some point because they've done a good job of setting this up. And as we'll get to our conclusions later, but as relatively safe compared to some other planes that this one may be, I feel like there's still the chance for some interesting things. I guess you may run into the Phantom Menace issue where if you feel like you have to spend too much time on politics, are you losing out on some of the wow factor? Like, oh yay, trade dispute.
Yeah.
Wee, taxation of trade routes. Woo. So,
That could be next year's draft innovation product.
Mike, shut
All right,
up. They're listening.
All right. What's your tax count at? All right. One of the ways I wanted to tie this discussion together was I don't believe unless we don't know who holds all those positions. I don't know that Aetherborn hold any of the official positions. I don't know.
Yeah, appointed for life is just a couple months. It's not really a lot of time to get stuff done.
I mean, that would be a way to ensure that there was turnover,
I was
right?
gonna say that's like term limits, right?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, true.
The cry I hear so often now is term limits. Well, this would be an effective way of establishing that.
But would an Aetherborn really want a desk job? I don't know.
Good time. Good point. Because, yeah, if you're maximizing every minute of your existence, all right, we're going to do roll call now.
Yeah, that's why they're all like entrepreneurs. Or they have restaurants or nightclubs and stuff like that.
Yeah. Good point, Mike. Very good point. So, cool. But I certainly I would hope that the fact that they really aren't on these positions doesn't lead to them being considered second-class citizens. Given the fact that a lot of them are born, have a very limited amount of time to amass wealth, somehow manage to do so, and then throw these massive parties before they die, it doesn't seem like they're second-class citizens because they're like the embodiment of the Kaladesh dream. Like we say, the American dream. You come from nothing and then you rise yourself up. That's literally what Aetherborn do all the time. I realize that not every Aetherborn is probably stupid rich, but the ones that we have seen and spent the most time on seem to be individuals of means. You know?
Yeah.
Why is Stark poking at us?
Dude, just ignore chat and keep going. If you focus on chat, we'll never get through the damn episode.
No, I'm just trying to glance at it from time to time, and he was like, it was distracting. So, note to self, don't worry about Stark. Yeah. So, I hope that they're not second class citizens. It certainly doesn't seem that way. What do you think?
No, they seem pretty well respected.
Good. Okay, so we've covered the races. We do have dwarves.
I mean, we have not covered the races. There are lots.
We've covered some of the more unique races, gremlins, aetherborn.
Yeah. Okay.
But some of the more common ones you'll see: humans, of course.
Yeah.
Dwarves. Do we have
Elves.
Elves. We have skyfish here. You like your fish? Okay, everybody likes fish, right? Well, maybe you don't, but hopefully you do. Do you wish your fish were in the sky? Because on Kaladesh, they are. That's trippy to me.
They even got whales up there.
They do. Like, that was a major part of the story at one point when there were some whale pods that were attacking, like, the consulate skyship. So, got a whole like nature versus industry type thing going on.
It's also Vidalkins.
Yep, Vidalkin live here. I think on Kaladesh they just have 2 arms, where on Mirrodin they had 4.
But they have 6 fingers.
They do have 6 fingers on each hand, yes.
Is it just me, or I realize Vidalkin, unless they're a planeswalker, they can't travel between planes, so I don't want to use the words drawn to, but it feels like we see more Vidalkin, or they seem to thrive in environments where there's the chance for intellectual growth. Because you see them on Mirrodin. You see them a lot on Ravnica. You've got them here. You don't really see Vidalkin on Tarkir. Right?
Yeah, there's really no place for them on Tarkir.
Exactly. So I don't know whether that's a matter of just convenient design from a R&D standpoint, or if that's a little deeper as far as like, evolutionary, that species is not primed for this environment.
I bet you could come up with some hand wavy explanation that's just the way things happen in the multiverse. You see these various races pop up in all kinds of different far-flung places. Maybe it's because some jerk planeswalker put them there deep in the plane's history, or maybe it's because the way things happen in the multiverse, they pop up in places where they're most suited to thrive.
Yeah. Good point.
Hey, wait a minute. Brian never questions why there's elves all over the place or goblins. How come you gotta question Vidalkin? It's because they're blue, isn't it, Brian? No, wait, that's clues. Never mind.
Yeah, you're confusing me for someone else with glasses.
Yeah, wrong guy with glasses and on a podcast that I host. Sorry.
I wear ties to work every day.
But not bow ties.
I don't own a bow tie. So that's one way to keep us separate. So next time you're like, wait a minute, are you Brian or Clues? Just check out the kind of tie.
Shout out to the people who occasionally will poke Clues about things that happen on this show, assuming they're thinking of Brian.
Is that a thing that happens?
Not as frequently these days, but it used to happen a lot.
Yeah, so fish in the sky, Vidalkin on the ground. Any other unique races here? Maybe not as unique as the Aetherborn, but still semi-unique.
Yeah, we've got elves who are still all about nature. We've got humans.
But there are a lot of accomplished elf artificers on Kaladesh too.
True, but like according to the Gamepedia here, Kaladeshi elves are more in tune with how ether influences the natural world.
Yes.
You've got dwarves who are white mana aligned on this plane, which is cool.
Mm-hmm. And it plays up the industrious nature of dwarves that you see in other properties and other fantasy settings.
Yep. And you've got
the thing with the elves, and that kind of ties into what Mike had said at the beginning, is that because according to the Wizards page, the ether or whatnot, it interacts with nature and creates the patterns that you see. So like the rice patterns or the water patterns with regards to the land itself, and the elves have that. They are harmonious with these patterns that are created by the aether in nature itself.
Yes.
Yeah. We've also got giants. And giants on Kaladesh are weird.
How are they weird?
So they're really big, humanoid type things. But they follow the currents of ether. So they're nomads. Like they don't live in a place. They just constantly follow the ether currents. And apparently these are like
they're migratory.
Yeah. They're giant migratory humanoids. But twice a year, because apparently this is really well defined, they end up close to Girapur, which is the main city. And there's a big a migration festival where people decorate them. And the giants, it says here, they're beings of pure aggressive instincts, but without a hint of malice. So it says, in all likelihood, giants aren't intelligent enough to wish harm on anyone or anything, but the combination of their regular migrations and their sheer destructive power makes them a menace.
They can't help it. They're just...
Yeah. Like gremlins, they just have the animal intelligence that drives them.
Makes sense.
So wait, you're saying they decorate the giants during
It says twice a year. This brings them close to the city. The arrival of the giants is celebrated in the Migration Festival, where teams try to decorate the wandering giants.
That sounds awesome.
I guess, and I'm sure this is how it's done. I'm imagining people, standing on the tops of buildings along the migration routes, like throwing colored streamers over the giants as they pass by.
Okay, I'm just assuming
someone using some drones to fly some garlands around them or something.
Oh yeah,
I'm just assuming that Kaladesh has, shall we say, beverages of certain spirits, because that seems to be a recurring theme throughout the multiverse as well. And I can just see a couple of guys at the festival who've had a little too much, and they're looking at a giant, and they're like, hey, I'll give you 50 if you can get one on its head,
This tradition was come up with some, Kaladeshi stoners back in the day who took some of that, partially processed ether and, smoked it. Like, dude, hold on.
What would be really great?
What if we decorated the giant? Someone else went, oh my god. Dude, give me a hit of that. Dude, that sounds hilarious.
Stone.
Anyway. We've also got angels, but they're inventions. And they're living inventions.
Mm-hmm.
It's really weird.
Yeah, they're not just like your average automaton. It's like the design and the infusion of white mana makes them more than that.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because it brings them in line with angels in other parts of the multiverse as well. Because they're all angels throughout the multiverse are beings of pure white mana.
Yeah, and the demons on Kaladesh are similar. The evil inventions infused with a ton of black mana.
I don't remember any demons. I'm looking them up.
It's not all that many, but they're there. Just like there's not all that many angels, but they're there.
Apparently my type line demon got erased. Hang on. It just showed me all the cards from the block. That's what I get for trying to use Scryfall. There we go. You actually have to click on it after you type it in. There's the Demon of Dark Schemes and... Oh, Herald of Anguish! I completely forgot about old Herald.
Good old
I remember
Howard
the
of English.
Demon of Dark Schemes because I was like, that's a name right there. You get exactly what he's about. So
Wow, that's an artificial being? It looks like just a creature.
Yeah, they're different. Like the angels are different.
The Herald of Anguish definitely looks like he's probably fake. Not fake. Created. Hang on. Let's go type angel. I only remember the Angel of Invention.
There might be like one other.
Oh, no,
I think
there's
there's a rare
two.
one.
There's the Exquisite Archangel.
Uh-huh.
Which one is this? If you would lose the game, instead you exile our Exquisite Archangel and your life total becomes equal to your starting life total. Oh, right, that one. And there's the Wisp Weaver, which is an uncommon one that blinks a creature.
Wasn't there also one with the mechanic where you either get +1/+1 counters or servos?
Yeah, that's the Angel of Invention.
Fabricate.
Oh, right. That's the first one you said.
Oh, and there's Platinum Angel depicted as one of the inventions, too.
Oh, yeah, one of the masterpieces.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was called.
Inventions, yeah. I completely forgot about her. She's pretty. Okay, then. These also don't look necessarily like they're artificial beings. Because they have what looks like, fleshy faces and hands. But everything else is covered in metal. So, okay.
But I think that goes toward the philosophy of the plane in general is it's not metal like mirrored in metal. It's artistic. There's a certain the way that the way the metal curves. I don't know if I'm articulating this very well, but the style of the invention.
The
Just
filigree.
Thank you. Perfect word.
It is, because that's what it's called.
Because that's what it's called.
Yeah.
But also the real world implication of what filigree means. So, yeah.
Yeah, there is a lot of artistry in the artifice on Kaladesh. Not like the stuff you would see come out of Urza's shop or whatever.
Yes.
Where they're just making what works.
Yes. Form over function. Although here on this plane, it's not like it's
form and function.
It's form and function. It's not at all, oh, this is just art for art's sake. This is really creative. Invention is, again, the most apt word. But there's a beauty to it beyond just what can this do.
Mm-hmm.
You take a French fry maker from Earth and you compare it to a French fry maker from Kaladesh, and the one from Kaladesh is going to do just as good a job, but it's going to be a whole lot prettier.
Yes.
Okay. I've just figured out what we need to get Brian for Christmas.
Kaladesh?
He needs a Kaladeshi popcorn maker.
There you go.
Nice.
It might have like silver wings on the side or something.
Yeah,
Definitely
it probably
something.
will respond to your vocal commands like a robot. I almost said her name, but I had to pause a minute.
Like a certain device that's named has a particular female name, yes.
Yeah.
I would be like, hey, insert name here. Start making popcorn. And it will go, okay. And hopefully start the popcorn. Not like turn on the TV or something. So.
And then it will use those silver wings to fly over and serve it to you when it's done.
Exactly.
There you go. There you go.
Another weird thing, real quick, about Kaladesh is that there aren't that many mages in a magic set.
Yeah, especially with the Aether so close. That is unusual.
Yeah.
There aren't many people with natural magical ability.
Yeah, and those that are regarded with suspicion and dread, because they're freaking weird.
So let's think about what happened to the Nalaar in Chandra's story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like overwhelmingly we've painted this place in a positive light, and not because of propaganda, but because that's how it's depicted. But fear, possibly racism, certainly classism, and social status all play into this. not only is magic itself just kind of uncommon and something to be feared, but I think, and you can correct me if I'm overstating, I believe pyromancy is to them like the ultimate. I don't want to say taboo because it's not like something you choose to do, but um, not.
It's an especially dangerous form of weird, scary magic.
Yes.
And why is
All
that?
What's that?
And why is that?
Do we know the reason? Like what?
It's because there's so much just ether everywhere that it might react with it and cause horrible damage.
That is a good point.
Yes, good point.
Yeah, so it could be that the fear is based on a very practical reason. Who knows? Perhaps somewhere in Kaladesh's past, you had a pyromancer that just went a little too cuckoo for cocoa booms and just said, I'm gonna make the biggest fireball I can, and something valuable was lost. So this could, and over the years, who knows if that fear even turned into something intangible where everybody just said fire bad. But there, therefore, when Chandra's talent was developing, her parents were like, "Crap, we've got to find a way to suppress it. We've got to find a way to keep her safe." And they had that conflict of how do we let her be who she is and keep her alive. And Beryl, chief of compliance, was in charge of finding her, tracking her down, and essentially executing her family for the crime of having a kid that's a pyromancer.
And granted, he was a particularly nasty and corrupt individual.
Yes.
But still, it was okay for him within the structures of the law and the norms of this society to hunt down the Nalaar family, to kill Kieran, imprison Pia, and basically publicly execute Chandra. They thought she was gone, but her planeswalker spark ignited and she ended up on Regatha.
Yeah. And their family was infamous to the point that when Dovin Bond came to Ravnica asking the Gatewatch for help overseeing the security of the Inventors Fair, somebody mentions Chandra Nalaar's name, and Dovin actually pronounces it correctly, Nalaar, which the other people there were, because the rest of her friends have basically just taken their best shot, but he said it like a native, and he's like, that name doesn't just ring a bell. That name rings all the bells. So they remember what happened with her family, X number of years ago. And I don't even know that that's necessarily because Pia is Renegade 1 or however they put it.
I don't know if she was at that point, but I'm sure people still tell stories of the public spectacle where it looked like Chandra exploded into a giant fireball.
Yeah. But the fascinating part to me, I've used the word fascinating a lot. One of the interesting parts to me about Beryl himself is that, unbeknownst to everyone, I don't think this is common knowledge, he's a mage. And that helps him in, like, when Chandra comes back to the plane and they attack each other, he's actually able to use his dampening magic to slow down her flames. But I really got the sense reading the story of it's one of those very hypocritical things where, if we're not supposed to have mages, and here one of the best mage hunters we have is secretly a mage. Dun dun dun.
Is that always the freaking case? Ham.
That is kind of a trope. It is. But again, it builds into the hypocrisy of it. So, and why is his type of magic allowed when hers is not? And I do think that part of that is because nobody really actually knows that he's a mage. So, Chandra blowing up kind of scarred him emotionally and physically. So,
so not everything is perfect on Kaladesh.
No. And you do have some of that fear and suspicion that also, while things seem to be better in the wake of the events of the block, and aether is more generously doled out, at least at the time of the Inventors Fair, it seems like there's a severe class division between those that had aether and those that had to beg and scrap for it and apply for essentially aether grants to not only fund their inventions, but keep in mind aether is important for most aspects of life on this plane. So
Yeah, it's the equivalent of electricity here.
yeah, so
yeah, you're right. And
you-
that was even going on when Chandra was young.
yes,
Her parents were involved in. Yeah, I guess that that resistance, that underground resistance, and underground aether runners existed even back then.
yeah,
And Chandra's family was involved in it.
right.
So yeah, I guess what I was saying earlier about most people being pretty well provided for, I didn't take into account that there was always that have and have nots division between, like Brian said, the people who had free open access to either, and the people who really had to scrape for resources.
I don't think you were entirely incorrect. I think that the society does provide for its citizenry in ways that others don't.
Mm-hmm.
Planes that we've already seen. Um, you know, the the average citizen on, let's say, Innistrad, unless you belong to the church or anything like that, you're if you live in a town and werewolves attack, well, sorry, too bad. At least on Kaladesh, it does seem like some of your basic needs are provided for, but there's still a class system, and it does seem like you have a certain percentage of the population controlling all of the resources.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always an interesting situation. But again, and it's difficult to say how much of that has changed. Certainly, it sounds like it's changed for the better, but we haven't been back since the events of the block. If Pia is now a consulate, and if we have others that are there, it sounds like they're going to oversee, being more generous with it. Nevertheless, that's the thing, is it is still a finite resource. So it's all well and good to say everybody, a chicken in every pod and all that good stuff. At some point, you got to make sure you have enough chickens to go around. So
yeah, I mean, it's constantly renewing itself from the blind eternities. I don't think the people on the plane understand that, but you can only pull down so much at a time.
Down so much. And given that this is so vital for the function of the plane, and the fact that the whole plane is full of people that like to build new and better stuff, and that stuff essentially all runs on this, like Chewie said, it's the equivalent of electricity. You're only going to get so many people able to plug into that power grid.
Mm-hmm.
Why? And before you have to wait for it to recharge.
Brownouts.
There you go.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. So we've covered the political structure to a certain point. We've covered some of the positive aspects, covered some of the negative aspects of the society. We've covered the bestiary, so to speak, and the different kinds of citizens you can have here. We've alluded to a lot of inventions, but invention seems to be key to this society's sense of self. Again, it's difficult because we've kind of come in at a time where they have the Inventors Fair, so everything's kind of skewed that way. But I would maintain that because they have something called the Inventors Fair, and it's as prominent as it is, it really goes to show you, what do these people value? And they value creativity. They value invention, finding new things, making new ways, the next mousetrap. Don't they have races there? Not races like, elves or whatever, but I mean like
races like Vroom Vroom.
Right. Yeah, because this was the first set where we had vehicles, and there was at
Yes.
least one black creature that was like a daredevil that alluded to racing. I think there was another pilot that pumped up your pilots, and it was implied or outright stated that they were yeah.
Deepala is like a pilot lord, and there's several pilot creatures that are especially good with vehicles. Like
we also have pirates, but that's different.
Yeah. Like one in particular that I remember because it was one of the first pieces of art that was released to preview the set. Speedway Fanatic,
That's
Speedway,
probably the one I'm thinking.
Speedway Fanatic is a pilot, but I really like that when they showed it off because it shows off the colors and the cool clothing and the cool filigree work and just everything that's like bright and exciting about the plane in one image.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the society tends to be around building a society that will value vehicles and self-propulsion and ways of getting around. That in and of itself does tie into invention, because in a plane where the fastest thing, where you don't have this sort of experimentation, where you don't have this sort of innovation, then you're going to get a society where they invent the carriage, and that's going to work just fine. And so they're going to be like, all right, cool, we're done.
Yeah.
We're not going to be like, hey, where's the next model of carriage? So I think that the two are related, because a vehicle, think about the trajectory of the bicycle into the automobile, into the airplane, into, do we consider those little two-wheeled things that people race around on was a Segway? Is that the next step, or is that a couple steps back? I don't.
It's a step sideways.
Okay. But you think about that. That's driven forward through invention.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like you said, the carriage is pretty much where they stop on Innistrad. Like I think Geistcatcher's rig, is that what that thing is called? That's like a one-off horrifying devil machine. It's not something that people are riding around. To ride to town on your Geistcatcher's rig.
See now,
Honey?
See now, that name. What one of terrifying devil machine is that? How say it again, Mike?
I think that's what I said. One-off horrifying devil machine. Yeah.
Terrifying devil machine has nothing to do with what we're talking about, and yet I still feel like it should be the name of the episode. But I'm afraid that it has nothing to do.
Yeah, they give the wrong impression of what we're talking about.
And so people will be listening the whole and they're like, what? So, not to mention that's on a different plane. But yeah. So I'm glad you get what I'm going for, Mike.
Mm-hmm. But in here, we have you have trains and race cars and like luxury cars and helicopters.
Wasn't there one car that was like an artillery vehicle? Like it had a big old cannon on the back?
Yeah, it had like a big old ballista on it or something.
Yeah. Oh, remember there was like the train that I remember in Kaladesh Limited was like, oh, not that thing again. So
yeah, there were what, 3 or 4 different trains, but
the pain train.
Yeah, 2 of them were relatively cheap and frightening, and one of them was huge and frightening.
A freaking pain train.
My favorite was the gigantic airships.
Yes, those are awesome.
Yeah.
Because there was one that was like the equivalent of the Titanic, but in the air.
Sky. Yeah.
There was a super big one. Was that?
There was. I'm gonna see if I can't find that real quick.
You're talking about the Heart of Kieran, are you?
No, that was the smaller one.
Yeah, wasn't there a bigger one?
There was
a more ridiculous one.
There was one. I'm looking it up. But is vehicle a type or a subtype?
Subtype.
It's a subtype. Okay.
Because they were considered artifacts, right?
Yes. Sky Sovereign. The console's
Sky
flagship.
Sovereign.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh, everybody can stop yelling into their headphones. Sky Sovereign console flagship. And this was the original. This is a big vehicle that's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, we had the Oval Chase Dragster, the Fleet Wheel Cruiser as the actual race car looking things.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I love it. Was so fast it propelled itself on the first turn, right? Is that the right one? There was one that animated itself on the first. I don't know. Keep going.
Yeah.
Was that the Fleet Wheel Cruiser?
That was the Fleet Wheel Cruiser, yeah.
Okay, cool.
And the trains, we had the Ballista Charger was the one that Dirk was thinking of.
Yes.
We've got the Aradara Express. Where'd all the trains go? What was that? Birdie is hosting. Why, thank you. We had the Untethered Express. No, the other one. The Renegade Freighter.
There we go.
That's the one.
Birdie says, what the heck is up with the audio? Does anyone else have problems?
Let us know if you're having trouble hearing
That's
us.
why I typed it in the chat so we wouldn't have it on the audio recording, but then you just had to bring it up.
Okay, I don't see how it matters either way, but whatever. It's not like anyone was talking.
So, circling around again, a lot of this goes toward what the people, meaning all the different races and those in power on this plane, value. Because they're going to allocate resources to allow for this sort of expansion of discovery. There's an industry built up behind this. And it doesn't sound like from the story that the Inventors Fair was a concoction of Tezzeret. It more just kind of happened that he was there and the opportunity arose. So he presented himself and said, I should be your judge. And they're like, yeah, okay. So the plane already has this in place as a way to encourage inventors to find new ways of bettering life. And there was a story where the inventor of the bridge, the planar bridge,
It starts with an R?
Rashmi?
There you go.
Had to actually, she was testing her product and she had to bring it before a board to go ahead as kind of like a test run for them to even approve it to get into the Inventors Fair. So it's not like just anybody can set up a little shack on the side of the road and be like, come check out my whiz bings. I mean, you might be trying to do
the
that.
whiz bings. I've been meaning to get my mom some of those.
Have you seen the Whizbang 2000? Are we still putting the number 2000 behind things? Because that doesn't sound as cool as it used to because it's 2019. But you probably could do that for about 5 minutes and then security would shut you down. Because, again, as was pointed out a while ago, this is fairly orderly. So if it's not allowed, it's not happening. So, we've been talking now for quite some time, and certainly if anyone has any further comments, I'd love to hear it, but I guess we can start getting to that ultimate question. Place to live, yay or nay? And I gotta feel like if you gotta live somewhere in the multiverse because the blind attorneys ain't cutting it, Kaladesh is not that bad. And I get that's hardly a glowing endorsement. Kaladesh actually seems pretty cool. It would kind of stink to be in the lower classes where you have to scrape for aether just to get by. Stuck maybe in a dead-end job where you don't really get to invent or have any sense of creativity. But I feel like the positives here outweigh the negatives, and it feels like a really safe place compared to a lot of the places we've looked at.
It's definitely very safe compared to other places we've looked at, even compared to Ravnica.
Compared
It
to
seems a
Ravnica,
lot safer
yeah.
on a day-to-day basis.
You don't have to worry about all of a sudden finding yourself in the middle of a turf war or, a quote-unquote rezoning by the Gruul where they're deciding to rezone your neighborhood into rubble. It does seem safer than that. Theros is another one we've talked about, where Theros, on the most part, if you live in a city, not that bad, but you're always subject to the whims of the gods, and if they just decide, you know what, I don't like this aspect of humanity anymore, you could find yourself in trouble. You don't really have that same sort of supernatural, godly influence on this plane. So,
yeah. And also the higher tech versus a place like Theros or Innistrad, which Innistrad is definitely not safe, but also the higher tech versus a place like that also improves the quality of life in general.
maybe one of these days, after we've done one or two more of these, we'll create like a chart or a graph, or even just like one of the like line charts, where at the one end you've got completely safe, and Kaladesh is toward the other, is toward that end. At the other end, you've got Innistrad, and everything falls in the middle. Maybe you might also find at Innistrad, like, post Hour of Devastation, Amonkhet. Places where your chance of survival is just about nil, and a lot of the places then fall in the middle somewhere. This does seem to be, while there is no place that is perfectly safe, because to be honest, that's real life as well as fantasy.
Mhm.
I mean, a world without conflict is inherently boring. There's not a lot you can do with that.
Yeah.
Um,
And there is conflict in Kaladesh, and there was
Yeah.
conflict in the story, but it wasn't the everybody's going to die kind of conflict
right.
that we see in other places.
Very true. The conflict, even during the storyline on Kaladesh, was one of I would argue, more personal nature than a global, and it certainly had implications, especially with the planar bridge and what that meant for Bolus's plans in the long run.
Yeah.
But the relationships were important. The Gatewatch to each other, certainly Chandra's to her family, and then how they interacted, and even Tezzeret being the villain, someone that most of them had seen before and had interactions with, instead of some kind of anonymous, here comes a new challenger, mini boss kind of thing. Just felt smaller in scope, and smaller may sound to some people like, oh, it's not as important, but the stakes for the characters can be just as big, if not more so, than, oh my god, the world's gonna die.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. The stakes for some of the main characters were huge.
Yeah.
For the everyday Kaladeshi person, it was really just, this underlying corruption that was present in their government that they didn't know about turned into this massive government crackdown.
Yeah.
Which is bad, but not the kind of bad that characters like, Pia or Chase or Gideon are facing.
Yeah. So Mike and I have talked a little bit. Dirk and Chewy, place you would want to live, yay or nay?
I fully agree with the guys saying, Mike and Brian talking about that. Of the places we've been so far, this one definitely ranks high on the, this would be a good place to go to. Is it a place of no conflict and just find a little plot and retire and everything? No. But if you're looking for, are there machinations to destroy everybody? No. Is there some sort of apocalyptic world-ending event that's going to take place? No.
Not currently. Yeah.
Not currently.
Give it time. It's a magic plane.
Brian's not if I have anything to say.
Well,
we have been to Amonkhet, where again Amonkhet was, like, oh, this would be kind of a neat place. This would be an archaeologist's dream to go and do this. Oh, wait a second, the world just ended.
I just had a thought.
Oh, whoops, the gates of hell just opened.
So again, of the planes we've been to, I feel like on a day-to-day basis, Kaladesh actually would be a really good plane to move to and live.
I actually just had a thought, and I didn't. Are you done with your thought, Dirk?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. I had a thought. I'm thinking about this.
Dirk, we haven't heard from you in a while. Talk. Are you done yet, Dirk? I have to talk again.
I had a thought.
Oh my god.
And I think one of the reasons, while certainly everybody has said a lot of good things about this, and I think a lot of it is pertinent to our discussion. One of the reasons that we, living where we are in the time that we do, and all of us are from, relatively middle class or upper, lower class anyway settings. None of us are really, poor or starving or anything like that. One of the reasons that we might feel more comfortable identify with a plane like this is because of the advancements they have made are more in line with the society that we live in. It may feel very romantic to say, yeah, I would love to go back and live in the time of King Arthur, or go to ancient Egypt, and that's great adventures,
Nah.
woohoo. But you know what? Indoor plumbing.
Well, the good news is that this is the plane where if you were to say, I'd like a house with indoor plumbing, I'm willing to bet you could find someone and be like, tell me more about this. We can see if we can
Exactly.
make that happen. I have no doubt they could make it happen.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying is I feel like a lot of the things that we take for granted, maybe not the internet, but just generally, like a lot of the creature comforts that we have now are either present on Kaladesh or there are similarities. So I think, thinking about it, I think that's one of the reasons that maybe we're a little more drawn to it, and we're more like, yeah, this feels okay, because it's a little more similar to some of the things that we expect in our own lives. So just a food for thought.
Well, I think a little bit of it is that there have been planes where if you're looking for a fight, if you're looking for, I want to go to a place where there's adventure, I want to go to a place where, I can test myself and come out on top. We've talked about several planes that you could probably go to and you could make that happen.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about like Brian and myself with family and everything,
and Chewie, who's
we're
a lazy
probably
wuss.
not looking for a plane where we're thinking, we'd like to put our kids in danger. You know what? I'm not terribly attached to a spouse. That's one of those things where, that's because of our family situations, we're going to probably skew towards a plane where it's, we can raise a family and actually keep a significant other longer than, the apocalypse.
I think
So
Kaladesh, if you're relatively well off, might have a daycare system. I think the daycare system at Innistrad is how to not get eaten by werewolves, children.
the daycare is, okay, guys, this side of the wall is safe. That side of the wall is not safe.
Which side of the wall
Stay
has
on
an
this
axe?
side of the wall,
Yeah.
please.
Which side of the wall has an axe on it? Stay on the side that has an axe on it. So,
you had mentioned a specific area and everything, and going through the different locations, I kind of and steer towards Vaude, the Golden Steps.
Outside the big city.
Mm-hmm. And I say that because it's, to me, looking at the art and everything, it looks much more peaceful. It strikes me very much of the said it'd be the subcontinent of India and everything. It's got stepped terraces for growing food, and one of the descriptions is that it has room for runways and hangars and all that. And I personally, I'm acrophobic. I'm terrified of heights. However, one of the things that if I had the ability to do so, I would love to fly. I would love to have like a little powered glider or something like that. And so this is one of those things where this is a location where you do test pilots. They test out the new inventions. They go and do all. So I think this would be an interesting place. Just sort of get your feet wet, you know, and look into doing and flying and testing new equipment and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's opportunities like that. You could be an inventor in the city. You could be a farmer. You could just be some schmo working in a foundry. There's all kinds of different walks of life.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other one that had a nice little look to, and I think it would be a cool one to go and visit and explore and everything, is Lathnu,
Mm-hmm.
city on top of the world. That feels like that would be like a kind of a neat place to go and look, to go and sightsee and look. Its major characters, that's where they mine and smelt the metals from the mountain.
Ah, right.
And so, if you're looking to build the craft and everything, that's where you would go. And as much as I'd love to mine and smelt some metal, I think it just looks prettier than what I'm willing.
Yeah, working in a mine is tough work.
I mean,
But I'm sure they
no
have
matter
plenty.
what plane you're on, yeah, that's.
I'm sure they have plenty of robot assistants.
Oh,
and sweet exosuits.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I love exosuits. There was a cartoon when I was a kid that was something about Exo Squad or something, and Martians, and that was awesome. I definitely had at least
Wasn't
one
that
of the toy figures.
The exosuit in the Alien movie? Wasn't that some kind of mining equipment or something?
It was like a loader.
Yeah. Okay.
For
it was like warehouse equipment.
Right. Okay.
Yes, I love how that movie basically turned something that was like, here's something to pick up heavy things and move them across the room, and turned it into, can I say badass? Because it was totally badass.
Yeah, they made a forklift into a badass thing that you fight aliens with.
Right. To the point that when the toys come out, everybody was like, yeah, here's the Marines, but where is the badass forklift? So. Chewie, do you think you'd like to live on Kaladesh?
Oh, I loves me some indoor plumbing, man.
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself a man of industry?
No, I consider myself a man who doesn't like to go outside to crap. Like, but yeah, it's a place that's, as we've said, nice and mostly for the, far and wide, it's nice and clean and safe. And it's also a place where creativity is, because, they've gotten to the point of civilization where you're not scraping for a living constantly. Civilization is encouraged and rewarded.
Yes.
Creativity is encouraged and rewarded.
What'd I say?
And Joey brings up a great point, is that we haven't really talked about a standard of living. Brian mentioned plumbing and all that, and that there's work and everything, but this is a place where creativity and everything allows for a fairly high standard of living. Not to say that everyone is rolling in the money or ether or whatever currency. But the point being is,
aether more problem.
But again, if you look back at, say, Innistrad, I don't think the people living out, worried about werewolf and zombie attacks are exactly having a high standard of living. I don't think when you are fighting so that you can get yourself killed and turned into one of the mummies with the wacky armor on Amonkhet. I don't think
with the wacky armor.
The dead people with the armor that they have.
Oh, I know
I
exactly.
can't think of what it is.
I just love the phrasing. So
yeah, I know. But again, that there probably is a high standard of living, but that high standard of living is one where it gears you towards, we want you to fight so you can be strong, and then we want you to
die,
join our growing army of the dead.
Yes.
sort of thing. So this is one of those places where there is a high standard of living, and it's a creative place that allows for growth of civilization. And other planes we've been to have not exactly fallen into that plat.
Yeah, like having civilization progress far enough to have a functioning government that is not a bunch of guilds butting heads with each other.
Yeah, it's not just like a bunch of guilds butting heads, or a king, or a moon pope, or whatever.
I love me some moon pope.
Yeah.
Is that vanilla or chocolate?
And Ravnica has a high level of standard of living, but the problem is that high standard of living comes with essentially a turf war rolled into it.
Yeah.
And depending on who's rolling the streets, you might get swept up in it. And there's just so much intrigue. It's like the Roman Empire, but on steroids in terms of the level of what you see in front of you, but then what's going on beside you and behind you and under you and above you. So this place seems way more simple, way more acceptable and livable for the average person.
Exactly.
There you go. Okay, then.
So we're giving this one a 5-star rating, or at least a 4.5, right?
Oh yeah.
They maybe won't die here rating. So yeah, I don't know. It's a fascinating plane. Is there anything else we really need to say about this, or do we feel like we've covered this one pretty well?
There's a thing that I was gonna say earlier, but then Dirk
Go right
started
ahead.
talking, and I didn't want to interrupt him. Brian,
He was on a roll. So Chewy, what's your less important thing to say? Go ahead.
you guys were talking about how there is conflict in the story, but it's not, huge world-ending nonsense for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And the thought that I had was, think about the movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, if every MCU movie was a freaking Infinity War or Endgame, we would always be exhausted.
Yes.
But sometimes you have the smaller stories, like both Ant-Man movies, for instance, are way much smaller in scale. They're still important stories to the characters involved, but someone living on the other side of the country gives a quarter knot of a damn. And it allows for pacing in the overall story, because MCU movies are coming out these days sort of along the lines of Magic sets. We get, 4 a year? Something like that? So,
Sounds right-ish, yeah.
I think Magic really needs to... and we've talked about this in the past, where every set is... or at least every story is, oh my god, it's the end of this play, and everybody... pile in, we've got to do something. Ever since they introduced the Gatewatch, that's all we freaking had.
Yeah.
And
except for Kaladesh.
Yeah. And I'm really glad that they're scaling back a bit. I guess Ixalan wasn't that either.
That's true. Ixalan was not everyone's gonna die. You're right.
Yeah.
And that was cool too. That was a bright and fun setting as well.
It was I liked Ixalan. I thought it was done really well. So maybe we'll go there next.
No promises. Because
No
we got a lot of
promises.
planes.
I said maybe. Yeah, which is a good thing.
Eldraine seems the art from Eldraine seems promising in terms of non-apocalypticness, but
yeah,
we'll see.
And I'm really glad about that. Coming off of War of the freaking Spark. Because the core set doesn't count. Because this core set especially didn't really have a story terribly with it. So as far as story goes, we're still coming off of War of the Spark, which was, Marvel Endgame, but in Magic.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good to just take a step back and have something that's not of the utmost super importance, and let's just enjoy ourselves for a bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
And that's one of the things that I appreciated about Kaladesh. Like I said, for the characters involved, it was very important. And in fact, for the multiverse at large, it turned out to be pretty important whether or not this planar bridge thing was snatched or not.
Oh,
but
yeah.
As far as the people of Kaladesh and Kaladesh itself, they neither know nor do they care.
Yeah, it wouldn't really matter to them either way. I guess really what would have mattered to them is how long the government crackdown lasted after Tezzeret left with the planar bridge. Because after that, the people of Kaladesh really didn't factor into Bolas's scheme anymore at all. Because the bridge went to Amonkhet to grab the Eternals and send them to Ravnica.
Yep.
Yeah. I just hope that, and it seems like they have learned their lesson to not have constant, everything is a giant world-ending clown fiesta.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give them a pass for some of the recent stuff since they were actually getting to the climax of the story.
Well,
yes.
Mm-hmm. But let's not
War of the
stay
Spark
there all the time.
and whatnot was brilliant for that, for a long slow burning buildup that started a few years
Yeah,
ago.
I guess there was a bit of a break in Dominaria, but all of the main characters were in serious mortal danger the whole time.
Yeah. And a lot of that action fed right into the central conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Like, basically, the last couple years have been fine, which is why I say I think they have learned pacing.
Yeah.
But the few years before that, it was not good.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, hell yeah.
All right.
So you think we're done?
I think
so.
We're done. And I just got. I'll be right back. So yes, I think we're done.
All right then. Brian just got to be right back. So now what? Should we wrap it up?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's good a time as any.
Okay, go for it.
Well, for me, my final thought this week was the first week back to school, and this week also being the first week back to school at my new school. I am glad to say that even though I come home absolutely exhausted, I actually am way happier where I am now than where I was.
Good.
I really feel like that there are people that I can talk to, collaborate with, and see how they do things, and be able to compare how I do my teaching and my lessons. And I really feel like it's giving me room to grow. And so I'm like, it's much better situation for me. The one thing that is kind of weird is I'm a traveling teacher because I don't have a room. So I have my little cart that I wheel around to whatever room I've been assigned to. The teachers got planning during that period, and so I go to their room to do my lessons. But it's, even though I have that, I've got my little cubby where I've got all my random teaching stuff, which makes my little office area look like it's like a hoarder's den, because I've got stuff underneath my little table. I've got stuff on top of my table. The only place I have to actually write stuff is this little corner. Like, the desk is sort of in an L shape. Well, the long part of the L has books and a bunch of stuff, and it's got the one free space where I can put my laptop and do work. And where the shorter part of the L is, that's where all my other crap is. And there's there's stuff underneath it, there's stuff on top of it. It's like, I swear, if someone came in there and was like, I need to use your office, they'd be like, never mind, I might as well go find a random table somewhere, because it would be much roomier than your little cubby. So no one, as far as I know, no one uses my cubby, because if they do, they're going to feel claustrophobic. My little cubby. So, but aside from that, like I said, I do feel like it's a little bit more fast paced. Like where I have been in the past, I felt like I had time where I could get to school before time, and I could stay a little bit after school and sort of like wind down a little bit. But because of my travel time and everything, by the time I get to school, I have about 45 minutes to get everything set and ready before I need to start heading to my classroom and start getting it set up for the day. And at the end of the day, I have to sort of clean up and go back to my little cubby area. And if there's anything, I'm going to try and get ready for the next day, because I have this a little bit of a hectic schedule in the mornings. By the time it's all said and done, I gotta leave so I can go pick up my kids. And so it really has felt like I really don't have a whole lot of downtime. With that being said, I don't really need all the extra downtime, because I just need enough time that I can get my copies, figure out what I'm doing over with my day. But like I said, it's, even though with the hecticness and everything, I've really feel like I'm in a much better position. I'm much happier.
Excellent.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
And so, with that being said, I've got to head to bed because I need to get up and get ready so I can be conscious when I go to work. So, with that being said, everyone have a wonderful night.
Night, Zerg.
All right. Good night.
Okay, Mike.
Let's see. I was really interested to hear the ban and restricted list news earlier this week. Yeah.
The one thing we all knew was coming.
Yeah.
It had another thing that some people might have suspected and others might not have.
Mm-hmm.
And then it had a couple of things completely out of left field.
Yeah.
And then there was a vintage.
Yeah. Because, the new stuff some of the new stuff had been causing issues in vintage as well. Some of it was because of the change to the mulligan rule. There's a lot of slightly luck-based decks that benefited from that. But yeah, so I think the thing Chewy was alluding to that some people thought would happen but other people's didn't was Faithless Looting getting banned in Modern. I was a little disappointed about that because it actually is an important part of how the Loma Salt deck that I used to play was able to work properly and stay consistent, but it's just collateral damage with them fixing other stuff. Kind of like how when Tron lost Eye of Ugin because it was making those Eldrazi decks mega ridiculous and just had to stop.
It was kind of stupid.
Yeah. But Stoneforge Mystic, I mean, there have been people saying you should unban Stoneforge Mystic for a long time, but I don't know if the majority of people thought that would ever actually happen, but it did, and that's interesting. And I think if I ever get to play a Modern event again, I'm going to try to build a deck with that, because I had fun with a very silly deck with Stoneforge Mystic in it for a couple of weeks before it got banned in Standard back in the day. And I have fun with it in one of my casual decks, and I even have a commander deck or two where it's in there. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff that can happen. We were talking before the show proper started, and of course we came upon it is funny that Jace the Mind Sculptor and Stoneforge Mystic were part of the 0-day ban list for the Modern format just because of all the horrible things it did in Standard. But now it's okay. At least, now we know it's okay for Jace. He's Modern for a while. Stoneforge Mystic, we'll see. It's powerful, but it probably won't ruin everything.
Yeah, what is it we said in the pre-show odds and ends that has a non-zero chance to ruin Modern, but that non-zero chance is still pretty small?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I think if it does ruin Modern, it's going to ruin Modern in a deck that already exists. And I think it's the Urza deck.
Really?
Yeah, ever since Urza was printed, his deck in Modern has been a thing.
You see, it would just be extra copies of Sword of the Meek?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'm back. Is Dirk still here?
No.
Okay.
Dirk said, tell Brian that he sucks and I'm leaving.
Okay, that sounds like something he would say.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Little domestic. Not an emergency, but anyway, here I am. Whose final thought was it?
I don't know. I think it was mine.
It was sort of Mike's, and then we got off on a tangent about the banned and restricted list.
But
if you want to hear that full discussion, you can be a lifeguard on Patreon.
Oh, yeah.
And eventually it'll go up. So, hey, Brian, what you got? Assuming Mike is done.
Yeah, the conclusion is that maybe I'll build a Stoneforge Mystic deck.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought that ban and restricted list announcement was pretty interesting. So yeah. I guess for my final thought, um, still enjoying Arena. I don't play it all that often, but I'm enjoying it. And I am looking forward to Brawl being on there. And I bring this up because there was an article that went up today about changes and things coming to it, and some of them I'm kind of like, ugh. But honestly, I feel like evolve or die, right? So at least they are mixing things up, trying different things. I'd much rather do that than just have them make the same product over and over and over and over again without changing anything, regardless of if it works or not. I feel like there's a name for that. Is it Magic Online? It might be Magic Online. So, um, I enjoy Arena, and I like the fact that now they are going to be coming up with a non-rotating format. So that's been a question. I don't know if I want to say on everyone's mind, but it's certainly been on my mind since the inception of Arena. And it used to be that, like, okay, well, this stuff needs to rotate, so account wipe. And I'm like, this doesn't feel like it's going to be a solution forever. So I'm glad they're looking at a way to address that. Other than that, on a personal level, sometimes I feel like I say work is crazy, and no, like this week has been insane. Mostly positive outcomes, couple rough outcomes. World keeps on going. Nothing too bad. Obviously, I can't really talk about any of that specifically, but overall, it has been a trying week. Uh, Today was one of the busiest days, and now I feel like we're sliding into the weekend a little bit. And this is one of the times where I'm glad we record this when we do, because I love to talk to you guys. It really helps get my mind off of some of the more real world type things, and just spend some time hanging out. So glad to be here.
Yeah.
That's what I got.
Okay. Then that leaves me. And I've got all kinds of stuff going on. Like there's never mind. No, I got nothing.
Have you made Legend yet?
No, and in fact, I've given up.
Well, like a couple days ago, I thought you were dead set on it.
Yeah, and then I did another stream that lasted approximately an hour and a half, and I had to rage quit, or else I was going to put my head through this glass desk.
Alrighty then. So
Yeah.
Things I shouldn't ask Chewy about anymore. I'm sorry.
The Legends climb for us casual players is... You know what? I'm gonna say this now. It's a goddamn nightmare. It's awful. If you're not one of the people who's trying to compete or has stupid amounts of time to grind, it's awful.
And this is coming from a guy who's at what? 2?
I think I ended at 3 on that last stream because I lost several games.
Okay.
I made it all the way to rank 1. I was 3 or 4 wins away from being legend, and then I tumbled all the way back down to rank 4. The way it works, by the way, in Hearthstone is every level, every rank has 5 stars. When you go past the 5th star, you rank up. And every 5 ranks, there's a floor, so you can't drop back down. Now, for most of us casual people, getting all the way up to one of the floors is pretty simple, and then the floor after that is kind of awful. I've gotten to the point where I can get to rank 5 pretty easily when I try, because before rank 5 there are still streaks. So if you win 3 in a row, you get a bonus star for every win. So if you get on a hot streak, you can actually jump ahead of yourself.
You don't get streaks for 5 and below?
Yeah. Once you get to rank 5, you don't get streaks anymore. So you have to do it honest.
Oh, the bonus stars stop.
I think my record is 12, and that was a long time ago. So,
but you have to win essentially 26 more games than you lose in order to hit legend once you hit rank 5. And
that's a lot.
At a 60% win rate, which the deck I was playing was staying pretty close to 60% win rate, that takes forever. And for people that, you know, who stream Hearthstone every day or something like that, like Kibler streams freaking like 8 hours a day. Like, if you are a good enough player and you have a deck that is good enough against the meta, you're gonna get there with that kind of time. I don't have that kind of time. Like, I have to do all of my other nonsense. That's content creation. That I don't know if Kibler does any of that. I don't know. I think he's got people that make the videos and whatnot for him. I think. But either way, like, I have to do the 2 podcasts a week and the YouTube videos and the streams and all, and I still have to do the driving thing on the side. Now that I'm doing that again, thank goodness, you know, to be able to survive. And so I don't have 8 hours a day to devote to it. And I've done so many, like, during the day, 3-hour, 4-hour streams where I was like, all right, we're up above rank 5. We're going to get there today. And no, we're not.
I'm sorry, man. I should have checked to see that.
Well, no, that's what I was going to talk about.
Okay.
Right
well,
here.
segue then.
Yeah, it was. I was like, did I tell Brian about that earlier? No, I didn't.
Nope.
But
I have followed you on Twitter a little bit, but I didn't catch where you were at. So.
Yeah, every win or every loss means that your next win just makes up for the loss. So now, in order to make progress, every loss means you have to win 2.
Yeah.
Which means when you lose like 3 in a row, like I said, mathematically, on a long enough timeline, you're gonna get there. But I play games and stream and whatnot to have fun. And after like my 5th or 6th, all right, let's hit Legend stream where I didn't, I realized this isn't actually fun. This is work. And if I wanted this kind of stress, I would get a day job. It pays better.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, after I rage quit last night, actually, yeah, it was yesterday. I was playing an aggro. I was still playing a Murloc Paladin deck, which is super aggro. I was playing against a warrior. I got him down to 4, and then he wiped my board. I said, I swear to God, if you come back from 4 life, I'm killing the stream right now. And he did. And I was like, all right, I'm done. Good night. And I killed the stream right now. Because I was seriously so mad. I hate Control Warrior right now anyway, because it was already one of the best decks. So let's give it more insane removal. Like, it turns out we were right, Mike. Making Dr. Boom 9 mana did not matter in the slightest. That card's unplayable now. You're an idiot. Mike didn't say that. This is to the theoretical hot take person on social media that said that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, because the season ends Saturday, and I don't want to do it anymore, I'll take my hitting rank 1 and just be happy.
There you go.
That is by far the closest I've ever gotten, and I'm good with that. And
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like, the part that really bugs me is all these people that get there, like, regularly and, you know, joke about, you're just at rank 1. This doesn't even count yet. Like, I hate the people that say that, because I clearly can't get there. So that means I'm not good enough, which really pisses me off to have to admit that, especially when I'm streaming for an audience. So I'm like, lose. Damn it! Like, it's not good on my mental well-being. To have this, like, obvious evidence that, well, hey, you're not good enough, by the way. Did you know that? Yes, thank you. I was freaking aware, you jack face. But so, yeah, I might try again, like, closer to the beginning of the season and just try to grind real quick up there before, you know, all the tryhards in my spot, you know, at the end of them, oh yeah, I still got to hit Legend and start working on it. I don't know. it just wasn't fun. I'm playing decks that aren't my style. I was playing like the best deck in the meta, mathematically speaking, based on the various data aggregation sites, and I'm still not going forward. And I'm like, and yeah, it's awful. And also, I was doing it for like no audience. Nobody was at any of these Hearthstone streams, which means clearly people don't want to watch me be angry and salty and trying to get there, because that's not me. Also, a bunch of the streams were at weird times, but like last night's was at normal time and the numbers weren't good, so I'm gonna go back to playing something that's not Hearthstone, and it's gonna be awesome. And I'm gonna be happy that I'm not playing Hearthstone.
And then you're gonna find $5.
And then I found $5. Yeah. But anyway, so that's that. I will be streaming other things that aren't Hearthstone starting tomorrow. I haven't figured out what yet, because there are a variety of things. I think tomorrow night will be Shovel Knight, because they announced a new Shovel Knight game, Shovel Knight Dig. And I'm like, I haven't even finished all the DLCs from Shovel Knight. I haven't even started any of the DLCs from Shovel Knight. So I think that's what I'll do tomorrow night. Not that anyone listening to the podcast cares, because this doesn't come out till Sunday. But I need to play something that is I could turn into YouTube content, because I'm running out. Do you believe it?
Wow.
Yeah, I finally finished Smash Brothers, and I finished The
World
Messenger.
of Light, so yeah.
Yeah, and I finished The Legend of Zelda like a long time ago, and I finished Human Fall Flat. That ended up only being 6 episodes, and I'm working on Titan Souls now, but with the heavy editing that comes from failing at boss fights over and over and over and over and having to restart, there's a bunch of stuff to edit out. So that's not going to be as many episodes as I thought. So yeah, by the way, Titan Souls is started today. It's what's going up on YouTube right now. I love that game for the most part. Like, it's really frustrating, but not in the every time I lose, it means I have to win twice. It means every time I lose, damn it, I have to walk back and try again. You know, the normal video game frustration. And I really like it, other than the walk back. The walk back, actually, by the time I got done with that game, really was starting to make me angry. But part of that was because I was trying to finish the game on stream in one sitting.
Is it just walking back, or do you also like have to do a corpse run to get your stuff back?
No. There is no stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Corpse runs can bite my...
So Titan Souls is a top-down pixel art 2D boss fighting game where you are a little character who has a bow and an arrow. And you can dodge roll. Boom. Done. That's the whole game. And you have a one-hit kill. Most of the bosses have a one-hit kill. You find the weak spot, you hit it with the arrow, boom. They die. The problem is, much like Shadow of the Colossus, it's like a 2D Shadow of the Colossus is one way it's been described. Each of the boss fights is a puzzle. You have to figure out how to beat them. And I really enjoyed it because it was, it was fun, and it had Twitch gaming and like cerebral gaming where you had to figure out what you're doing, and it's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. You can buy it on Humble using the link down in the description. But yeah, I played through the whole thing, so that's going up on YouTube right now. I think the second episode will go up tomorrow, I'm pretty sure, yeah. And that's really all that's going up on YouTube right now because I've run out, so I've got to do something. And I've got a variety of options. Real quick, that would involve Shovel Knight, doing all the DLCs for this, because it's been 2 years since I finished Shovel Knight. You believe that? I didn't believe that.
Oh, wow.
Let's see. The campaign in Halo Wars, which is the only real-time strategy game I've ever played and loved. But I want to do the campaign on that on the heroic difficulty. Not legendary. because Halo games legendary difficulty is complete BS, and Halo Wars is no different. So I want to do it on heroic, but I think I need to run through it not on stream, on normal first. So that's going to take some doing. I want to play Bendy and the Ink Machine. I want to play Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. Yeah, I have a lot of stuff I want to play for content. So, and those are just the ones that are already installed on the on Steam. So, there's a lot more. But anyway, so that's what I'll be doing soon, is playing at least one of those so I can start turning them into YouTube content, and also putting up Titan Souls and still playing. I need to get back to Dota Underlords on stream is what I need to do, because that game gave me joy and I miss it. I don't think I've played it on stream but like once or twice this month, and I was playing it like 2 or 3 days a week on stream. So like I'm having withdrawal. I'm going through DTs over here and I don't like it. But anyway, so yeah, that's what's going on youtube.com/themanapool, right here on twitch.tv/themanapool, and yeah, I'm going to get back to things that I enjoy. You'll notice there haven't been any Hearthstone YouTube videos going up, because when I do like 2, 3 or 4 hour streams, or 3 or 4 hour streams in a row, trying to like pick through them and find games that are worth putting up on YouTube takes way longer than it's worth. And so many of the games aren't worth putting up on YouTube. So, yeah. I can't wait for the season to roll over so I can start playing Hearthstone without anger again. It'll be great. But anyway. So, yeah, if you want to help support with this ridiculous amount of content creation that I do all by myself, there's the Humble store affiliate link. If you buy PC games or Twitch games, then you can check them out on humblebundle.com. Also, all of their bundles, they have book bundles and software bundles and game bundles. There's all kinds of stuff. Go check it out. The bundles are always an amazing value. Yeah, if you use our link, then that actually does directly help support Manapool Productions, as it were. So, thank you. You can subscribe here on Twitch, either with a normal money subscription or with Twitch Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, then you have Twitch Prime. You get 1 subscription token to give to somebody every month. I would love it if you give it to me, but please give it to someone so that then Twitch, who's owned by Amazon, will give someone some freaking money, because Amazon has all the money in the known universe. Please make them pay someone. Yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Brian, don't you have Amazon Prime? Hint, hint. Let's see.
I think so. I'll have to check with Gary. I'm pretty sure I do.
What else? Oh, and then the most obvious way, of course, is Patreon. You go to patreon.com/themanapool. You can sign up to become a lifeguard and get a variety of perks. You can get early access to all of my YouTube videos and the Manapool episodes. We record on Thursday night. I usually get them up by Friday sometime, and then they go public on Sunday. So, hey, you could totally listen to them early. And you can get the odds and ends, all the stuff recorded before and after both Monday Night Magic and the Manapool, just behind-the-scenes nonsense that's uncensored and unfiltered. And also, you can get the sponsorship shout-out, become a Mythic Lifeguard, get the sponsorship shout-out on both podcasts, and on the end screen for all of the YouTube videos each month. So, hey, thanks to our Mythic Lifeguards, Jason Doan, Kim Ho, Andrew Hunt, Al, Lance Delicious, Team Uhellas Haru, Connor Kennedy, John Morris, Alex Gonzalez, Jeff Spencer, Stuart Slaw, PJ McMillan, Sophia Brattain, Casey, Faye Says, Danny Liao, Cody Buckowing, Jake Jansen, Jason Kaus, Gothic Man, Brian DeLucci, Stark Maximum, John Parker, Violet Moon, Aleph Cat, almost got it, Dan Holm, Bartle, Sarah Jane, and the Beast Father, Aaron Goodwine.
That was a noble attempt.
I got it on Monday Night Magic, but I exhaled too much around Gothic and Stark, I think.
Hey, that's Stark's name.
It is. So, yeah. With that, we will be done with episode 565 of The Mana Pool. Thank you all so very much for joining us, whether it's live or later in audio form or on YouTube. And go play some Magic. Maybe live in Kaladesh. Maybe.
Seems all right.